Hey everyone, it's Brad and Josh here, and we welcome you to We'll Bring the Popcorn, the ultimate film and TV podcast.
Now I want to move us into our second movie review of the week. We have Jay Kelly on Netflix. This is kind of a comedy drama directed by Noah Baumbach. It's starring George Clooney and Adam Sandler. George Clooney here plays the lead Jay Kelly here, who is this world famous movie actor who is kind of coming up on the end of his career, kind of the twilight moments of his career where he's really on the fence back and forth of whether he wants to continue to make films and do the things that have made him an international superstar. And it's come at a very personal cost to him by not being as available for his family. Particularly the focus on this film is more so on his daughter Daisy, who is getting just graduating high school and kind of going off on this European vacation with her friends, that Jay's like, you know what, I'll just ditch what I've got going on to follow her, to kind of spend some more time with her before, in his words, I lose her forever. But you also have Adam Sandler playing Jay Kelly's agent here, and you kind of go on this journey of self-discovery for Jay where he's, trying to keep himself in the life of his daughter while also figuring out what he wants for, what's basically the remaining years of his life, while he reflects on, what he has done and what he wants for his life going forward. And that's kind of the kickoff to the whole movie and what it's about. But what were your thoughts on this when you dove in and started watching it?
No, I was pleasantly surprised by this. I think, of course, George Clooney is a fantastic actor. And it started off a little bit slow when it's trying to build, but then you really get the nuances and what it's trying to do. Like, it's another property like The Studio was with Seth Rogen that's trying to peel back the layers and try to show you different aspects that not everyone sees of being in the movies or being in TV, of just how many people these stars have around them and how what their decisions do have such a great impact, and just how cutthroat the industry can be and how much you give up. And it's not just the actors who give up, it's the managers, it's the publicists, it's the lawyers, it's the agents, it's like everybody who has to make like extreme sacrifices. And it is kind of like a midlife crisis or an late life crisis that he's dealing with, that he has this feeling that he's just, was it worth all the sacrifices and stuff I did? And it was really interesting because you're trying to look at Jay Kelly in a few different ways, and it's trying to make you feel sympathetic towards him, but also you feel like he was a very selfish guy who didn't think of anybody but himself, because you get these really interesting, well done flashbacks of where you actually have like Jay Kelly standing in the background, because at first you're not exactly sure what's going on, and then you realize, okay, this is him looking back on his life and his auditions and films and other things that he did, and he's really looking back, and you're constantly getting a back and forth. Jay Kelly, where okay, he sees some error of his ways, but then he goes about doing things the same way, or he's just oblivious to a lot of things. And I think it was a really great performance by George Clooney, that you got a lot of depth out of him. Adam Sandler was great as well. Like, a lot of the performance are very much more subtle and laid back, but it's the depth of the hurt and the heartache and the struggle and the stuff that they put themselves through to help a movie star or be a movie star. And you're dealing with the kids, like he's got another kid that barely talks to him, and Jessica, who's gone off to be a teacher and living her own life and just doesn't feel like, I don't need Jay Kelly, I don't know who you are, I don't know what you are. And it deals with a lot of different layers, and I really enjoyed this film in the end. Like, it's one that it really made me think about a lot of things. And it's not perfect, but it made me think about a lot of things that it was trying to say, and that it was trying to kind of reveal about the want and the drive of people to be a star and what it can do, because you also get another aspect of that with Billy Crudup's Timothy and what kind of goes in there, which I was hoping we'd see a little bit more at, because I love Billy. He's a fantastic
amazing
actor who does such incredible stuff. Like, he's been brilliant in The Morning Show, and it's just Big Fish is still one of my favorite Tim Burton films that he was in as well. That was really a hard-hitting, emotional film, but I got a lot of enjoyment out of this. Like, it's a much slower, much more kind of subdued performances, but I think there's a lot of heart and soul and decent message behind it, even though it's not always giving you a clear and cut drive what you're supposed to feel about Jay Kelly in the end.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the point, right? Because this is very clearly a flawed man who is very successful, but you do kind of peel back the curtain on what the cost of that success is, right? So it's kind of satire in theme while also being dramatic and dealing with some of these harder hitting things, because you do see how it does affect the personal lives of all the people around him. And I do feel like outside of the pacing issue of the film, you get a lot of solid thematic elements in it, because you can feel for Jay, but you're also frustrated with Jay because you're like, oh, you just got it. You really got it. You might be able to make this way to turn your life around. And then he takes 2 steps back and reverts back to the things that he's comfortable doing. And that's kind of the whole point of his character in this film, is like he wants to, but he doesn't know how to, or he's not as willing to as he seems like he is. And he just doesn't have that ability to really push himself forward and make the changes in his life that he needs to, almost until the point where it's too late and he has no choice but to, because of things that happen to him throughout the film, right? So you have obviously we can talk about some of the spoilery type stuff for this. Timothy is his old acting school buddy, and they dive into that relationship of the resentment that Timothy has for Jay because he took Jay on this audition and he got the film that broke his career that Timothy thought should have been his role to get, that kind of thing, and just a resentment that he harbored for him, and it kind of blows up in a way that it does in this. It's kind of some of the more dramatic points of this film, as far as like, if there's any kind of stakes in this, is because you have the publicist dealing with, this interaction between the two. The fight that they get into was captured by the valet outside of the place that they were meeting for drinks, and him being a Hollywood actor and famous Hollywood actor, a guy getting into a fight with a guy nobody knows because he wasn't successful. It can get twisted in the media, and in the media will turn it into something that it's not completely necessarily what it is, and it can make him look bad, and it could ruin his career, kind of thing. And you deal with some of those elements too, but you have his team that's behind him, which an extra shout out to Laura Dern, who plays his publicist in this and she was absolutely fantastic.
She's always fantastic.
And what limited time she gets in this film, because she's in it for quite a bit of it, but then like as soon as she exits, she disappears very quickly, and you see these people just kind of leave out of his life. And then most of the heavy lifting in this film is done by Adam Sandler and George Clooney, and there's a ton of drama in, but I do want to kind of highlight some of the lightness that's in the film and some of the comedic elements that are in this. Adam Sandler calling everybody puppy in this film was both cringeworthy and funny, because one of the stereotypes of an agent is they all have pet nicknames for their clients, but he literally calls everyone puppy in the film, which is creepy and funny at the same time. But also, one of my favorite scenes in this entire movie has nothing to do with George Clooney, and it's the meeting that he has in Italy with Patrick Wilson's character, who was one of his other high-profile acting clients, and just the way that spoiler alert, Ben is firing Adam Sandler at like the worst possible time for Adam Sandler's character, who's going through his own drama and things, but just the conversation they have at that restaurant where it's like, I'm the one being upset because I have to give you the news. You're not allowed to be upset about it because it's terrible for me, and this is hard for me to do. And he's like, I need to start making these things for myself. And he's like, well, there's a lot of people that do this stuff for you, Ben, who's Patrick Wilson's character. He's like, I do all these things for you, Ben, but there's other people that do this for you. So you're going without all of these people. He's like, no, I'm going to still have this, and this. I'm just getting rid of you. And just, it was such a silly interaction that they have that was very funny, but also like dramatic at the same time too, because it's literally coming for like the worst possible time for Adam Sandler's character Ron in this film too. But it was just, I don't know why, that scene overall just humored me, because Patrick Wilson gave a phenomenal, goofy, over-the-top actor performance in this too, and it was just a real highlight of the film for me.
Yeah, it's those tongue-in-cheek moments where it's poking fun at itself and at Hollywood because of how that satire of how everyone sees agents and how they're, and just how different people, managers and agents and people in Hollywood are kind of two-faced. And that's a big theme in here as well, because you get Adam Sandler calling everybody puppy and saying like, you're the most important and you're this and that, and kind of telling everyone the same thing. But then he calls his family and he's talking to his wife and he's wanting reassurance, and he's, trying to be a dad, but he's ignoring his son, and he's leaving when his daughter needs him the most. And it's that two-faced nature of Hollywood that it's really going over all those different layers through all the characters. Like you said, Laura Dern was fantastic, but she didn't get as much. But you get that's also kind of a commentary about how Jay didn't really, she was there and working for him, but he didn't really have much care or idea about her. So when she disappears, you're like, well, she just disappears. And it's like, well, and Jay Kelly doesn't have much of a reaction to it. It's kind of that cutthroat nature of Hollywood that they're touching on. Like, oh, she's no longer around me. Oh, well, like I've still got Ron, or I've still got this. And there's a lot of satire and just commentary on
for sure.
the film and TV industry. And like I said, George Clooney is it's one of my, I wouldn't say it's probably my favorite role of his, but it's one of his better roles that he's done, because you really get to get those emotional layers, and he's supposed to be keeping kind of more guarded and not fully changing, because that's part of the story of that he spent his entire life as an actor, and things are supposed to be temporary, but now he's, much older and life has passed him by, and he's wondering that, some really, without going too spoilery towards the end, about realizations that all of his favorite memories are movies and scenes that weren't real, that he was acting, and that he doesn't have very, very many big memories that are outside of a film set. Yeah. And that's really, again, more commentary about a lot of stuff. And you also feel like there's a lot of things, especially a special nod that George Clooney said he didn't know was happening, because a lot of this revolves around, they're trying to get Jay going from one movie to another movie set, but he kind of has that breakdown where, he wants to follow his daughter around in this. So, Ron sets up, well, we're going to honor you, and so you can be in Europe, and he's got his whole team tracking his daughter behind his back, and he kind of says that, okay, I'll let you do the honor. Well, we already got Ben set up for the honor. Oh, we can do a double honor. So, we're just going to keep doing it, and it kind of goes through to get to that ending of his honoring, and there's a lot of stuff that's towards George Clooney. You're seeing a lot of his actual films and other work in that, but I feel like a lot of this is a reflection of like a satire look at George Clooney's career and life in a way. And, he's also channeling a lot of the big classic actors. So there's so many different posters and scenes that are recreating classic headshots of, famous actors and everything else. But I think it's a really interesting just study of people and characters and those inside the industry, and who pays the bigger price for the cost of fame.
Sure.
And without spoiling the ending, you really do have to be invested in this film to get the most out of it, because the final word spoken in the film is a throwback and a callback to something that happened at the very beginning, but you have to get the nuance of what he said has a much deeper meaning as an actor and as a human being. And like there is such layers in that final sentence that's said, that when you really think about it, like, oh, okay, I get that this is happening in his brain, but he just can't stop himself, and he's asking for, because the final line is like, I don't want to spoil it because it's so good, but it's well done if you can really connect it to going back to that first scene and more of what that message meant in that first scene, because it has more layers to it than you expect.
Definitely, if you watch this film, pay attention to the very beginning. Kind of lose yourself in it, because like you said, it is a little bit of a slower pace. It's a little over 2 hours long. I really feel like they could have cut maybe 10 to 15 minutes off of this film, and it would have been even more solid of a movie overall, because I do think it suffers a little bit from some slow pacing issues, but so well done, so well performed all around, and you really get a lot of that satire stuff. I do want to take a brief second to kind of point to the whole George Clooney element in the film, because they even talk about him being an actor from Kentucky, which is where George Clooney goes. Obviously, we live in Kentucky, so we know the connection there. But they have the nod to George Clooney, even like as he's being an actor from Kentucky. Like it's very George Clooney coded in that way. Anyway, like they kind of lean into that, and I appreciated that little subtle nod to his origins as an actor and growing up not that far from where we live, and it being a kind of a little bit of an element that they interweave throughout the story too, because it's mentioned a few times in it. But I thought it was a really cool nod to his career, even like you said, the final sequence of the tribute, and you'd see they sneak some of his actual acting in it, while it's also some of very much ode and nods to other classic films, either that they kind of superimposes George Clooney into them, but just some actual stuff from his. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. That was a really neat element. I'm glad that was a surprise for him when they were filming it too.
Yeah, he said he had no idea they were doing that the director was doing it. So his reaction
was genuine
of seeing that happen with the audience and stuff. Because he said you're in a full theater of actors and everything else, and you're seeing that happen like in real time, cool. And he had no idea what was happening.
It was a really cool element, a really cool subtle thing for them to do for him. Even in this, because to be fair, George Clooney's been around a long time. He is getting up there in age as well. Who knows how long his career is going to go as an actor? So it's kind of apropos to make a film like this for him now. That's very much, he was notorious for not getting married for a super long time and being, kind of like one of the most famous eligible bachelors of all time kind of thing before he finally settled down and got married. But it's kind of taking that and turning it on his head, where he was this family guy and had this broken relationship with his kids. But yeah, I do like all of the elements that they incorporated into this and the themes and everything. This is one that does kind of make you think and let you sit in these scenes and kind of take it in and really lose yourself, whereas Five Nights at Freddy's didn't have all of the character development that we were hoping. There was so much character exposition in this, almost swinging the exact opposite way for us here, where you see him trying to take this one step forward, two steps back kind of thing that he goes on this journey for the film. It's just so well done. And like you said, the little nuances and everything here, there's a lot of attention to detail that's very subtle. Yeah, and just done so well. I got a ton of enjoyment out of this film too.
Yeah, it's a lot of things. It wants you to think about all the different layers. Like if you're not someone who's into something that really requires you to have to kind of piece things together, you may not get as much enjoyment out of it because, like you said, it is a slow burn. It could have used a bit of trimming and stuff with it, and it does require you to really be paying attention to everything that's going on, but also have knowledge of things in Hollywood, of how agents and managers are and publicists are, and how a little bit of the behind the scenes stuff. But I also think there was also a little bit of a nod to his dad with the dad character in there, because if you know anything about George Clooney, his mom and dad were both also big personalities in Cincinnati and all around and stuff. So I felt like there was a little bit in there because of how his dad acts towards him, and how his dad kind of felt like he's a bigger deal than his son, and other stuff as well, that you feel like there's a little subtlety of tying into his family history and their fame and everything else with it. But yeah, it was a really solid film. Like I think George Clooney was just really, it felt like a mock biography of his life.
Yeah, like, a little bit, yeah.
It kind of felt like that, which was an interesting way for him to look, because you do get to see Jay in so many different lights. You get to see him on set and how he is an actor and working with things and kind of calling the shots of redoing scenes and all that. But then you get the scenes at the bar with Timothy, where you're getting to see him cut loose a little bit and reminisce about the past and how things are, that maybe he's not remembering things as well as he thought he remembered it. But then you get him like on the train interacting with the regular folk, and you get to see a little different side of that. But then the scenes with his kids, and whether he's there in person or the kind of artistic way of showing a phone call and stuff that happens, like there's a lot of different layers that they show. Like I can get like at the end that they don't maybe give as big of a resolution as you feel that you should get, but if you get that last line and you tie it to the beginning and you get the meaning of what that really meant of what he said, then you can get that was a really fitting ending to it, because you just kind of get to see who Jay Kelly in the end really was going to be. But there's a lot of layers to it, but I really appreciate what they did with this. And he said Adam Sandler is great. Like I really love that contrast of it's. You can look back at a review of Happy Gilmore 2 of just how rough I was on it, that I was not a fan of it at all. And he does comedy and goofiness so well, but I don't know why it's still surprising when you get to see him do something that's a little bit more heartfelt and a little more serious. Even though he gets to be goofy at times, he is able to give that different layer and performance. Like he gives some really solid, serious, even if it's a dramedy type of performance, like he does a really good job in this film.
Yeah, he's really good in this too. It's one of his better, more dramatic roles. I would agree with that completely. Like, you have some really solid performances in this, but like you said, George and Adam do quite a bit of the heavy lifting throughout this film, and for good reason. They're both incredible actors and phenomenal performers, and it was just so well done. I don't have a whole lot outside of the pacing to really nitpick about this film, because they got the message across they want to. It was shot well. The cinematography in it is really good. The dialogue in it is really good as well. Like, it's smart dialogue. It's, so many different fun elements to it. One of my favorite scenes outside of the Patrick Wilson, Adam Sandler scene, my favorite scene with George in it is the scene on the train where he's just talking to the regular people, and you see him, like, him just basically doing a Q&A session on one of the cars, where they were just like, well, you do this, and you just kind of see that charm and that way in his ability to connect with people that are just like the regular people or whatever, but you see him just turn on that charm and be that. It was a really fun scene just to see him interact with people that way, and in a way you don't really normally think of seeing celebrities of that nature interacting with regular folks. Is more often than not we hear about the negative interactions way more than the positive ones, but you get to see that really cool public interaction that he has, where he just turns on the charm and just everybody gets kind of swept up in, oh my God, this famous actor's on the train with us, and he's just like us. He's a regular guy, and he has the snappy comebacks to people, and just it was a really fun interactive scene that I got a lot of enjoyment out of.
Yeah, I think the train is one of my favorite sequences in the film, because you get that, because you're also not sure is that Jay being himself with him, or is it like PR that he's been trained so much in, his career to be able to talk to people and tell them exactly what they want to hear.
Yep.
No, but then you cut to that his daughter's on that train and he's standing behind the door watching her make out with the guy, and he's just standing there just watching, and then she notices him. He's like, oh, hi, and then comes to the door, and then you kind of get to see him fall into being the dad, but he's just not sure, like, oh, did I screw up in following her and doing that? Yep. And then it just goes a complete 180 where he chases down a burglar who stole a purse and stopped the train and running off. Like, it's almost like you started filming a movie in the middle of this sequence on the train.
Funny. Really funny.
But then it hits you at the end of that sequence with the robber of, well, not everything is as it appears. Like, this was just kind of a desperate guy who's shown, and you get that. It says, like, there's just so many layers in that train sequence, because you also got Laura Dern and Adam Sandler's character are kind of revealing stuff about their past and everything between them, and you're getting a lot of revelations of them, like, why are we just following this guy around who doesn't give a crap about us, and we just spending our entire lives wrapped around his life, and he couldn't care less about it. Like, that train sequence had so much,
a lot to it,
depth and layers if you really look at everything that happened. So that was a pretty monumental sequence, but it was one of my favorites because of those layers between it all. That, are you really getting a true Jay Kelly in here, or is this the PR actor doing pretty much a sketch? Because like a big running theme of this movie is it's easier to pretend to be someone else than it is to try to be yourself.
Right.
And that's a key bit of dialogue and a key message throughout this entire film. It's like it's so much easier just to pretend to be someone else than it is to be yourself.
Yeah, and it's not even just a theme for Jay. It's the theme for all the people around him, too, because you deal with the element of Adam. Ron and Jay are supposed to be like friends, but he's also his agent, and they very much toe that line of, it's like, are we really friends, or are you just somebody that takes 15% off the top and you pretend to care about me, kind of thing? Like, is it like, are we actually friends, and all this other stuff? And you deal with that relationship element as well, because while Ron leans more into the, no, we're friends first, but because we're friends, I'm going to take care of you. It does come with a financial cost, but he's very much on that side of it. And then you get Laura Dern, who's completely on the opposite side. Liz is like, I love you, but I don't love you. You know what I mean? Like I care about you, but I'm also going to take my 15% and kind of make sure that, you know, we cover you and keep this gravy train going kind of thing. But yeah, it deals with those thematic elements too. Like, 'cause you're not just dealing with the crisis that Jay's having. Ron's kind of reflecting and looking on his life too. And so is Liz and all of the other people that are around Jay, because not only do you have that, you have a hairstylist who's kind of important for that for a little bit before she has other opportunities. And then you also have like his security guard, who was just so funny in this. I don't know why I laughed every time he was on screen, because he's very serious, but the one where he tripped running off the train, I was just cackling. I don't know why. That was so funny for me visually, but very well done. And it just such a good movie, man. This was a pleasant surprise for me, because I was like, yeah, it didn't get a theatrical. It got a very brief theatrical release, even like
because it is a Netflix property.
Correct. So once again, with Netflix, they got a very limited run in very select theaters. It never came anywhere near us, but with it having that, you just don't know what kind of quality you're going to get. It's still kind of hit or miss. But I was pleasantly surprised by this one. This is one of the better ones I've seen come out in a while, and that was a lot of fun. That was a fun journey that we got to go on in this story that really leaves you thinking. And if you're paying attention and you get the subtle nuances and you're picking it up and you're paying that close attention to the story, you'll have a good time with this one.
Yeah, so Jay Kelly is a really interesting kind of character study. You're looking at the actor. You're trying to look at the man, the father, all the different layers and elements of somebody, but also the craziness of Hollywood, of the huge teams around these people. But it's looking at their lives from different perspectives of what they show to Jay and what Jay shows to others, but also how they are in their personal life, that nothing is really cut and dry in Hollywood, and that there's so much fakeness and so much given up, and it gives some really interesting layers and messages and depths about what we give up for careers and fame and just desire for many different things, and what we're missing out on and what we're losing. And like, there's a great interesting story and message behind this. George Clooney gives one of his better performances. He is really great in this, with a really layered performance. Adam Sandler is solid. He gives a really subtle, but you get a little bit of that heart that he is struggling and what he wants to do, but he's also is really easy, like Jay is, to jump right back into the character that he kind of plays instead of the human being outside of it. I thought it was a really smartly done film that really makes you think and go back over all the different things that it tried to say and do, and I think it all worked really well. I'm giving it an 8.5. I think this was a pleasant surprise, that it really gave me a lot of enjoyment when I was really able to sit down. I sat down for like 10, 15 minutes afterward, just thinking about all the different things it did. And, you know, I am someone who's very interested in the behind the scenes and seeing how things work in Hollywood. I don't exactly want to be a part of all that insanity, but seeing that kind of peeling back the curtain in a positive and negative, and just kind of not shying away from showing all the bad and the good at the same time. I thought it was just so really well done.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have too much to add to that, honestly, because I think we're in pretty tight alignment with this. I landed on an 8 as a grade for myself in dealing with this. This is definitely one that does leave you thinking and paying attention, which I think is it's kind of a standard for Noah Baumbach films. Like, he has those elements into a lot of the ways he likes to tell his stories, and you get that here. George Clooney was phenomenal in it. Adam Sandler was really good. Laura Dern was phenomenal in it. Like, really solid performances from some well-known actors, and you get some other subtle, you know, appearances for some people you may recognize as well in this that had kind of minor bit roles in it, but a really solid film overall that, you said, does peel back that curtain on Hollywood a little bit, and you get some of that story from a perspective you don't always get to see, and they did a phenomenal job at it, and kind of keeping the satire in it and finding the levity when it's not too dramatic, and kind of pulling you back a little bit to kind of be like, okay, you don't need to, it's not it's serious, but we're gonna have a little bit of fun with it too. So they kind of toe that line in a really well done way. That I think 8 for me is a solid score to where I land on it. It's not perfect. It does suffer from a little bit of pacing issues, especially at the beginning. But once you really jump off into really the adventure when they leave to go to Europe, it really picks up from there and really starts to take off at that point. And a really, really solid film. Definitely, I would agree, one of George Clooney's better roles that he's had in a long time. And who knows, maybe he gets some award consideration for it. I wouldn't be surprised if he did. But like we keep coming back to, this is one of those years where there's so many really, really good performances. It's going to be hard to weed some people out. And this one may make the cut, it may not, but it's worthy of at least considering for it, I think. And
absolutely.
In a way that he does such a really, really well done job with this, that I got a lot of enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, so Jake Kelly is playing on Netflix right now. Go check this out if you're into this sort of thing. It's not going to be for everybody. It is definitely more, I guess,
it's a niche
on the artistic side, but it's really about peeling back those layers of Hollywood. And if you're not a fan of Hollywood and all the hoopla and stuff that goes on there, you may not get much enjoyment out of it. But if you have at least some interest in it, of a character study and looking at all the different layers of a human being and how they've gone through their life, and if what the sacrifices you do in your life are really worth it, then this is a film that you could have some good enjoyment of, and that'll make you think.
To find all of the episodes of We'll Bring the Popcorn, go to our YouTube page, hit the like and subscription button so you're getting our episodes when they drop each and every Monday. If you're listening to us in the audio realm on any of the podcasting platforms that we're on, please don't forget to give us a 5-star review. It really helps elevate the profile of the show. And don't forget to go to willbringthepopcorn.com, where it has all of our archive videos, all of our social media information, as well as our merch store, so you continue to support the show in that way. We cannot thank you enough for your continued support.